So at this time, I'd like to ask our guru in international services from headquarters, Kiki Melanides, if she'd like to say a few words before we get underway.
Sure. Thank you, Elva. I want to welcome you all to this meeting. I also want to thank Bill and Elva for their commitment in holding these DISC meetings regularly as an opportunity to share best practices and questions and just really support you as you develop projects and help your clubs be more active in international service. I'm going to keep it short so we can get to our main agenda, Erica, to tell us more about her role at Rotary. And I just wanted to share like a main update. I think we've mentioned before that we're holding our first virtual project fair next week, and it's the West Africa Project Fair, November 9th through the 13th. So I encourage you all to sign up, and I'll in the chat, I'll send the registration link where you can do that. I think it's a great way to travel virtually, to look for to partner on projects. It's a great opportunity. I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the first hour will be dedicated to showcasing projects. So this is a great way for you to hear about these projects and to help them by becoming international partners. And after that, November 13th through the 14th is the Ecuador Project Fair virtually. But I'll go ahead and in the chat include how you can register for the first one. So thank you for being here today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I've shared my email. And again, I thank Bill and Elva for their committed efforts. They've done such a great job since we first met in 2018 in Evanston, and little did they know the task that they were kind of getting themselves ready for. And I can't say enough thank you to them, and really am thrilled to see you all here today. So with that, I say I'll turn it over to, I guess, Erica. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me give you a little bit, just a brief intro here. Most of you have already seen the bio that was on the introduction for this particular session, but for those that aren't, you can read it. It will be on the video that we'll send forward. But as Elva and I have been walking through this process, it became apparent to us that there is a need to understand the process. I mean, how can you navigate a global grant without understanding how it occurs, how the approvals are achieved, the people that are involved, and in what order that involvement occurs. So we reached out to Kiki, who was absolutely terrific in getting for us today Erica Gwynn, who, as you heard, is the Area Focus Manager for Water and Sanitation for WASH. So she's going to be talking about the interactions that occur during the global grant application evaluation and process between the regional grants officers, the RGOs, the area focus manager, the role that she is so familiar with, and the cadre of technical advisors and perhaps some others. In that way, we'll be able to, I think, better understand and follow the flow and know who to ask, what questions of, and when. Erica comes to us with a very rich public and private sector involvement with backgrounds in biology, environmental health, toxicology, and also in water resource management with advanced degrees in those last two. So we're thrilled and absolutely delighted to have with us Erica. Erica, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill, Elva. It's really a pleasure to be around folks like you that are really excited and organized and meeting and on a regular basis, essentially to talk about topics that you all are encountering or working within almost, regularly. Even during the pandemic, I have to say, we had really expected Rotary activity to subside. And that really showed us that we didn't know Rotarians as well as we thought we did, because we saw an uptick in activity during this time, and that even has to do with projects. I'll go into that in a little bit, but I just want to say bravo for the amount of commitment, activity, and service that you all are doing right now during this time. Okay, so thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm going to share screen. I just want to start though, before I start sharing my screen, I really would like this to be more of an interactive discussion. So even though I do have a PowerPoint, I don't want to dominate the conversation, so it's only one way. So like Bill said, I'm going to talk a little bit about the area focus manager role and where that fits within the foundation and Rotary International. About 25% of our jobs and duties and responsibilities and portfolio has to do directly with global grant support. So since a lot of you are working with global grants or thinking about maybe doing service projects, whether it's global grants or not, I definitely will be focusing on that today. But I'll also be giving you a little bit of snippets of the day in the life of an area focus manager, of all the things, essentially, all the balls that we have in the air, how we juggle each and every day. And I think hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on how we're trying best to support you all in a variety of activities. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring up the slide.
Would you like us to ask anyone who has a question to unmute themselves and raise it as you go along, if that's...
Yeah, you know what? That would be a great idea. To encourage and sometimes interrupt my flow of, I would love that. Sometimes listening too much of your own voice gets too much. So please unmute yourself, but also if you feel a little bit shy or you'd rather articulate yourself through the chat, Elva is going to be watching the chat as well. Okay. Let me go ahead and, whoops. Okay.
So Erica, while you're getting going, would you mind giving us a quick update on what's happening with the new area of focus and when people can start applying for grants under the environmental?
Okay, I like that topic a lot. And yes, I'll be touching upon that.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay. So as you know, I am the area focus manager for water, sanitation, and hygiene. And before I start off talking a little bit about what I do at the foundation, I'm going to turn to you all, and I would like to ask you a question. I'm going to quiz you. So this might be a very basic question for some of you, but I would like you to put your answers in the chat boxes. How many area focus managers are at Rotary International as of right now?
Because there's multiples per area, is that what you're trying to get at?
I'm not going to give you any hints. So I just want to know how many area focus managers are at Rotary International. Yeah. Okay. Don't worry, we won't come after you if you get it wrong. Okay. All right, good. And as you can see, we do have 6 areas of focus, one being water, sanitation, and hygiene, which I think is the best of the 6. All right, now that the answers are in, we actually have 5 area focus managers, not 6. And this really helps you just kind of have a starting point of who are your point people for each of these areas at the foundation. So we have Rebecca Krall, she's the area focus manager for peace and conflict resolution. John Wallen, who has actually disease prevention and treatment and maternal and child health, because they're very similar to each other. And Mary Jo Jean-Francois, she's in charge of basic education and literacy. Bonaventure Fandohan, he's economic and community development. And then yours truly, Erica Gwynn, water and sanitation. And then we have Mo Keita, who is essentially our coordinator. He helps to manage all of the communication that comes across the areas of focus for us. So we actually have 5 area focus managers. Now that we're getting a 7th area of focus, we are going to have 6 area focus managers. So for those of you who answered 6, that will be correct as of July 1st, 2021. So you can find this contact sheet on myrotary.org. And you can get all of our emails and phone numbers, and you can see our language proficiencies on here. And all of these people come from external agencies that were brought to the foundation purposely from the outside. And the reason was to provide a source of expertise in each of these areas. So for example, John Walland has over close to 35 years of experience working across sub-Saharan Africa in disease prevention and treatment and maternal and child health. Mary Jo Francois, she spent most of her career in Haiti, doing basic education and literacy. Bonaventure Fandohan, mainly from he is from Benin, but he has also comes from extensive background working for the UN, etc. And myself, I come from a mixed background of working both domestically for the USDA in water resource management, and then I have also worked abroad in Uganda and Mexico. I also happen to be ambassadorial scholar. That's how I first got my foot in the door within international development, was through ambassadorial scholarship through District 6380, who I know we have representatives here in today's group. So I'm very grateful for that. And I had no idea that my career would do a full circle back to the foundation to provide support. So, all right. So to give you an idea, what we work on, I get that question. So yes, now I know, Erica, we have area focus managers, but what are your roles and responsibilities? And I could spend an entire day telling you that, but this kind of gives you an idea of the linkages we have within Rotary at large. So I'm not going to go into all the details within this presentation, but you can see there's a large breadth of activity we work with. For example, we work with the Major Gifts Initiative and fundraising efforts, because we want to provide statistics and impact statements of really what is it we're doing in the field where your investment is going into. We also work with technical groups such as Cadre of Technical Advisors and Rotary Action Groups, and I'll go into that a little bit more in detail. As I said before, 25% of our time is taken up by supporting the grants department, and that's global grants specifically, but we also have other grants at the foundation that we also provide support on. And then a big part of this is we influence and create policy, guidelines, etc., for each of our areas of focus. And that is, we directly report these products to the Board of Trustees and Directors. And we'll go into this a little bit more, but I just wanted to give you an idea. There's really a breadth of work that we do. So in a nutshell, from my elevator speech, I usually say I am a technical advisor. So I provide technical assistance for program design, strategy for programs and partnerships in the future. And I also do a lot of assessment and evaluation of how we're doing in the field, whether our projects and programs are sustainable, and what sort of impact we're having. So as you can see, that's quite a breadth of work that we are involved with. So I wanted to start off by giving you an idea of what WASH is within our portfolio. I think that'll give you an idea. Now, mind you, the only data that we have at the foundation is coming from global grants. So this is only global grant data. This is not accounting for service projects or club funded projects, district funded projects. So as you can see, WASH, water, sanitation and hygiene, is the second most popular area of focus as of now, next to disease prevention and treatment. And one thing I like to point out is that it also tends to be the guinea pig for a lot of new programs and ideas that the trustees and directors are playing around with. For example, we have a partnership called the RI-USAID Partnership, in which $6 million an investment has been dedicated to. And this has only been within WASH. We really don't have this type of investment outside of global grants. And then we also have a unique program, which I'll tell you about in a little bit, called the WASH in Schools Target Challenge. And this was really to see how Rotarians can focus on a singular goal. If they're given a goal, how do they respond and achieve that goal, much like they did with polio? So this was an attempt. The trustees had dedicated about $1.6 million for this effort. And the goal was to see, you know, what else can we achieve like we did with polio? What will come after polio? So they wanted to see if our areas of focus would respond the same way. So, what do we work within WASH? Well, not only are my jobs, or I would say responsibilities, quite variable within the foundation and within Rotary International, because I do bridge the two, that our portfolio within WASH alone is quite extensive. So you can see here we're heavily invested in water supply. We work in schools. We work to improve water supplies so that we're not only giving people access, but we're actually cleaning their water, making sure that it's safe and potable. We focus a lot more on sanitation than we should have, because that's an excellent thing, because we still have close to 2.5 billion people without access to safe sanitation. And believe it or not, 1.2 million of those people are right here in the United States, for those of you that are in the United States. We offer graduate scholarships. We work in watershed and water resource management, so that we're actually protecting water resources from pollution, from any sort of impacts from agriculture. We support irrigation projects. We really focus on behavior change, like making sure that people are washing their hands and it's becoming a habit, that we're not open defecating and spreading diseases. Solid waste management is also a big part of the WASH portfolio, and that includes plastics. I know a lot of you are interested in collection of plastics and getting them plastics out of our waterways, and utilizing those plastics in recycling programs. That is supported through water, sanitation, and hygiene. And then hygiene and life skills education. So as you can see, we really do a lot of activities within WASH. And with this new area of focus in the environment, we really had to make sure, as we were defining the area of focus for the environment, that we weren't actually just repeating much of what we were already doing in most of our areas of focus. So when I go over with you a little bit about that, you're going to see that the emphasis is less on water, because we already are doing water and WASH. Scholarships, like I talked about, and being a scholar recipient, this is a big area that I definitely stress is important to continue advertising and supporting. All right, so this takes us, now you know what the overall portfolio looks like given within the global grant system. But I think what's really important first and foremost is to really understand what is the role of the area focus manager within global grants. So global grants, the go-to guide, I hope all of you, and I would love to see a raise of hands. Raise your hand if you are familiar with the guide to global grants. Okay, some, yeah. Okay, so you can find this again on Rotary.org, and this really is the starting point for all your questions related to global grants. If you're even thinking about diving into global grants or asking for foundation funds, this is the place to start. It tells you a little bit of the expectations that we need to see within your project. It also tells you a lot about the players that are involved at the foundation. And one of those players is myself or the other area focus managers. So how do I interact with the other players? So let me see. All right, as you can see here, I directly work with the grants officers. So when you submit your global grant, it is given to a grant officer. And that grant officer is in charge of the first primary review and all administrative duties that are assigned to that grant. That means making sure your authorizations are in, that you have your funding in, that you have filled out the application in its totality. Where I come in is when we receive World Fund, when you request for World Fund contribution, and World Fund means foundation funds of $50,000 and greater, okay? So I don't get to see all grants that come to the foundation, only those that I would say are asking for a larger amount of funds. And the purpose for this is because I would be doing grants, I think, all day. We really do receive so many of it. Just last year alone, we broke around 350 global grants just for WASH. So that would be doing one grant a day. And I would say for me to review a grant, it takes around 2 hours because I want to make sure that I'm reviewing it in completeness. So why am I brought in? I'm brought in because I want to make sure that you are adhering to essentially the guidelines for sustainability for the grant. And I'm doing a technical review of that grant. I want to go back to this slide real quick. So this kind of shows you when do you get a technical review, okay? Now, these numbers actually have just changed recently because of all the changes going on right now with global grants, but it gives you an idea that at every single level, there is a level of technical review. The first level, level 1 is what we call, actually gets a technical review by the regional grants officer. But he or she has a very general knowledge across all areas of focus, but not a very subject area expertise at all. But if you start getting into these higher levels, what we call level 2 and level 3, that's when you will have me, the area focus manager, review your grant. And I hope that explains something to you, is that oftentimes you may receive a checklist when you submit your grant. And that checklist may first come from the regional grants officer. And you answer all the questions and you submit it back to the regional grants officer. But then he or she has submitted already to the area focus manager. And I look at those responses and I recognize that there are missing elements of your project design that would create large risk for the foundation if we were to invest. So I add additional questions. And then that's why you oftentimes will get a second checklist back. For those of you that have experienced this, I hope this kind of gives you some insight as to why you get 1, 2, sometimes even 3 checklists from our area focus managers, from your regional grant officers. Now, how do the larger grants, or I'm sorry, level 3 grants, as you see here, oops, I'm sorry, I got out of this larger grant level, which is around 200,000 to 400,000 request of World Fund, was going to require a technical group review, not only from the area focus manager, but also from Cadre member. And I will show you that connection. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing. Okay, so that's when the Cadre of technical advisors will also do a technical review. And why do we have a Cadre of technical advisors if we supposedly have in-house expertise? Well, as you can see, the area of WASH is very big. And it would be impossible for me to be much of an expert in anything if I knew a little bit about all those areas. So my expertise, I recognize, is a sliver of all those areas in which of WASH that Rotarians are working in. And so that's where the Cadre of Technical Advisors, they're essentially my volunteer cadre, or my colleagues essentially, that I can call upon to also do another review of your application. So can you see what an amazing system this really is to provide 2 levels of review that's highly technical of your design to ensure that you have the best possible chance of having the services that you're going to be providing through this grant in existence for the long term, that this is going to be a worthy investment, not only for the Rotary Foundation, but for the beneficiaries to receive. Any questions about that? And I, you don't have to just depend on this slide here. You can get more details about the technical review, the cadre, and how they really have a role in not only the desk review, the technical review, but also they are assigned sometimes to go out to the actual site and visit the site to verify that the project is being implemented as being told to us. Yeah.
Erica, this is Bill. Is it advised or not for a project lead, be it either the host or international partner, to go to the technical advisors to get some insight as to what they really need to have at the beginning? Or is it best to work through the regional grants officers and then through you, and then eventually, or through the area focus manager and eventually to the technical advisors?
Mm-hmm. So you can, so I think any questions that you have specifically about the grant process or anything administrative about the grant, you go to your RGO, the regional grant officer. If you have specific technical questions at the front end, like you're saying, you can reach out to a cadre of technical advisors at the front end. So I would go to them as for technical advice as you're designing your project. That's the ideal time. Why? Because we all know this. We put together the beautiful package and we're ready to submit it to the foundation. And then we get this checklist back saying, you know, you're missing this isn't good enough. It would be much stronger if you improved this area. And what do you feel? A little defensive sometimes, right? Because you have really put over a year's worth of work putting in and designing all the parts of this project to the best of your ability. So I would really coach everybody on this call, and I hope you can bring this resource to others, is the importance of when you're in the design phase of your work, reach out to the resources we have at the foundation for you. I'm definitely one of them, but I think some of the best ways is learning peer-to-peer. And the cadre of technical advisors, they are Rotarians. They're volunteers. They're trained by the foundation, and they're trained to understand the guidelines, the limitations of our global grant system that I abide by. And so they work very closely with me, essentially. So they're an excellent resource to use at the front end.
Very insightful response. Thank you so very much. I think that's awfully helpful to everyone on this call.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you get in touch with the cadre of technical advisors? That's another great question, right? You can get in touch with either, you can contact Christian Pipera. He is the head of Cadre of Technical Advisors. So I can always, I'll post that in the chat. Or you can also reach out to your regional grants officer. They're kind of like the operator, right? They have all the connections to us at the foundation. If you think this is complicated, this connective web, you should see what their connection web looks like at the foundation. They really know where to go to and turn to. So I would also go to them. Yep. Any other questions anybody has about where the area focus manager comes in for doing a technical review for a grant application?
Bill, Tsimansu Basu, could I ask a question, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Well, both of you were going particularly explaining. I'm just dying to tell you that Cadre are reorganizing. I'm a Cadre, but only in maternal and child health. But we are trying to reorganize. You probably have heard that Cadres are now in 7 zones in each of these areas. And in each zone, we in the Europe are trying, and trying is the word, we haven't gone far, in separating them in area of focus. So watch this space. I think very soon we'll work closely with you. We need to learn, and we need to obviously share with you our experience, but also action groups, and ultimately leading to what you are doing, Bill, at the district resource network level. So there's a lot of cooperation coming in, but thank you.
Excellent point. And I really have to stress also the importance of the DISC role. The DISC role is again, that peer-to-peer, as a Rotarian, you're gonna turn to other Rotarians first. And the DISC is really in a great position because as you become more knowledgeable of where all these pockets of expertise in different areas are, you can really point your peers to the right direction at the beginning. Why fumble, right? Why fumble when we have a map in front of us? I do want to point out that the Rotarian action groups are another great source. And the Rotary, what we call RAGs, Rotarian Action Groups. Within WASH, we have 2 that support the area of WASH. That's WASH-RAG, which stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. And then we also have SRAG, which is the Environmental Sustainability Rotarian Action Group. And these also, I consider them as my right-hand colleagues as well. When I need specific expertise in area, or if I need an extension arm, say, listen, guys, can you please help this district to really formulate a solid program around sanitation in rural Kenya? Boom, they find somebody within Kenya that can also provide that expertise. And as you know, you just heard, the Cadre is also regionalizing itself. So what better resource to use is an expert that is actually within country that you propose to work in. So these are my 2 major resources that I turn to. And most importantly, these should be your major 2 technical pools that you can also turn to as well. Now, what links us all together? I want to just clarify this. The area of focus policy statements. Each area of focus has policy statements that specify what is eligible for foundation funding. And you can see this is found on rotary.org. You can even Google it and it'll take you straight there as well. For water, sanitation, and hygiene, I gave a little sample of it here on the right-hand side. But it really shows you exactly what we support. And all those areas I had showed to you, that breadth of work we're doing, is all outlined here, such as facilitating universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water. Funding graduate scholarships for career-minded professionals. It's all laid out here. So if you need direction of, would this fit within our areas of focus, this is the first place to start. And the Cadre is very much aware and familiar with these policy statements. And same with WASRAG and SRAG. We're getting everyone up to speed. But I also want to point out an even more helpful, a very helpful document that I think a lot of Rotarians are not aware of. And this is another resource available to you that you can point people to. It's called the Guidelines for Global Grant Funding. And each of the area of focus has one of these. Now, this particular document for water and sanitation is close to 22 pages long. Why? Because it breaks down exactly what we expect to see within your project design. Everything from the community assessment to if you're doing a water and sanitation project in a school, exactly what we want articulated and fulfilled through your project. Why do we have these guidelines? Is because these reflect the best practices that have been articulated, not only within Rotary, but across the sector based on evidence. And we really want to steer Rotarians to make the best decisions for their project to be successful. So I really encourage you to get people to start looking at the guidelines. It really amazes me when people are so astounded with the checklist questions that they'll get back about their grant. If they followed these guidelines, they wouldn't get a checklist. And because these guidelines are being utilized by, they should be utilized by Cadre members. They should be utilized also by WASREG members, SREG members when giving advice, especially around global grant projects. So now, who made these? I think is what you're asking. So I definitely had a big part playing for shaping the skeleton here. But of course, my expertise isn't across all the areas within water and sanitation. So I utilized Cadre members and WASREG members and SREG members, expertise that exists within your DISC network to help really create the meat and bones of these guidelines. So this has actually been created and verified and debated over of, are we asking too much of our Rotarians to meet these standards, or are we asking too little? So this has come to be a decision of where we want all of us to be, the level and standard we want us to be at. Does anyone have any questions about the guidelines?
I do, Erica. It's Bill again.
Yeah.
When I look at the global grant funding, and this is something that I have done as a DISC, direct people to this. Once somebody has navigated through the website and they find a document, they have a tendency to download it, copy and paste it into a document, and then they use it forever. When there is an update to the guidelines, is there a method that exists that allows those of us in this endeavor to know we are using the most current, be it either a date stamp on the document or anything like that that can guide us to the most current specific information?
Yes, so we have a date stamp here right at the bottom. Like, these were not updated right now. The ones that are posted on the website were made July 2018. So right now, actually, I'm working with Cadre members and SRAG and WASRAG members to update these guidelines to be ready for you all to have in your pockets as of January 2021. That's the only way you can really guarantee. We also put out messaging and communication to our leadership. So if you are a DRFC or a DISC, you usually will be notified by Karen McLeod. She is the lead administrator for grants, and she does a lot of communication on new resources or updates to resources.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
It's Doug McMillan here. Can I just ask whether there's a planned review every X number of years?
So minor revisions come every year. But we are mandated by the trustees to update these every 2 years. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question then would be, this has got a date of July 2018. We're over the 2 years. Is there a way, if one accesses this, can you be sure that this is the latest one? You take down all the other ones and...
Yeah, we do take down the other ones. We only make available the most recent one.
Great, thank you very much.
Absolutely, good. So I would love to ask you another question, a show of hands. Before today, how many of you were aware that there were actual guidelines for each area of focus? could just raise your hand. No shame if you didn't, not allowed to. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. I'm glad to see that this is useful because I don't want to overwhelm you with too many resources that we have. But you know what we really have found through our research and surveys is that Rotarians really are not aware of the amount of resources and training tools that we have with at the foundation. And that's why really the DISC role is so critical. Not only for making sure that we identify expertise regionally, but for making sure that we connect that expertise with Rotary tools that are not being utilized, right?
Erica, I know we have a cultured group here on this call today, but for those of us that are watching the PowerPoint, about how many people of a percentage basis, how many people do you think raised their hand? You know, 10%, 100%?
Oh, in general?
Yeah, yeah, on this last question that you just asked.
Yeah. I would say usually around 10%. Yeah.
Yeah, and I only ask that because that's really important for Elva, me, Kiki certainly, and the other discs to understand and know that we need to do a better job of getting this information out to people so that they understand, number one, they exist, number two, how to get to them, and number three, how important they are. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bill, Rick Benson, quick comment. Even though these documents are dated 2018, I don't remember ever seeing them prominently posted on the website until maybe 3 or 4 months ago. They now are listed as a standard resource if you're on the global grant page and you're looking for stuff. They are now posted there, and I go there fairly frequently. But until I found them, it made writing grants, or finding this made writing grants much easier.
That's good.
Much.
I like that testimony.
I got a recipe to follow.
And I wanted to add just another point on that. I think with Rotary, we just have a plethora of resources. They're there. How do you find them is the question. And that's why we have been recommending to DISCs to not only find, human resources, experts who are mentors, but also direct clubs to resources like these guides that Erica is mentioning. So we have a lot of information, but getting to them is the issue.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it wasn't easy to navigate my Rotary. I know that they are putting substantial facelift to my Rotary. And for a while myself, I would even just Google. I would put water and sanitation guidelines, Rotary International. Now you shouldn't have to do this, but as a last resort, I do have to verify just to let you know that you can find it even through a Google search. So if all else fails, that is available.
I would just make a comment, Erica, if I can. I have also done that. For those of us that do that sort of as a backdoor process, do be careful because many districts will post information on their website. So make sure that you vet the source of the information that you are searching, folks, so that you make sure you get the right version of that.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
These now are very easy to find. If you're looking for the regional grants officer or any of the other key documents, they are now right there on the right-hand margin. So they're much easier to find than they were before.
Yeah. So it's really with the work and collaboration of this left side of the screen, the Cadre of Technical Advisors, my regional grant officers, and the Rotary Action Groups, that I work together to really build these resources the best of my ability through their collaboration for the benefit of Rotarians, knowing that they can't always get a hold of a one-to-one conversation with either myself or even these wonderful human resources that we have available. But we do also try to use other forms of media. For example, we just had I worked with WASRAG to create a community assessment webinar, And this was actually a 2-hour webinar that we had over 200 people attend to. And we really it was very interactive. There was trivia in there. There was exercises. We actually went through a real global grant and to look at, what was wrong with this community assessment? Why would this have been questioned by the foundation? So I really encourage you to, that material is located at WASRAG, which is WASRAG.org. And they have training materials as well that we endorse and we support through the foundation. Okay, I would like to just go to the right-hand side of the screen real quick and say the one square we haven't touched upon is really how do I interact with, or these two squares, is the Rotary Board of Trustees and Directors, which are essentially the policymakers. And of course, the relationship I have externally from the foundation, which is really important because this is where you all come in. I just wanted to take a second here. So my interaction with our policymakers from Rotary are really in a variety of different ways. So first and foremost, you can see here, the area of focus for the Environment Working Group was the lead entity that was in charge for creating the area of focus for the environment. And they utilized the two of us who had predominant amount of our portfolio was really crossed over with environment. Water, sanitation, hygiene by nature is pretty much an environmental area. But we really wanted to be able to define something beyond what our areas of focus we're already covering, because there's such a breadth of the environment that the Rotarians are interested in. So myself and Bonaventure Fondahan worked together with a Rotarian group of Cadre members again, and different experts that had expertise in energy, recycling. What were the other areas that we worked on? Oh yeah, ecology, conservation, biodiversity. These are all areas that are going to be opening up the Rotary Foundation for those type of activities to be encouraged, to be advocated for, and to be funded through the foundation. So the policy statements for those, we worked, golly, that was right at the start of COVID-19 here in the United States. For about good 4 to 4 months, it took us to really hammer out a set of policy statements that will launch this area of focus. I think you'll be excited to see the possibilities of how Rotarians can be engaged through things that are the tangible, like I said, like cleaning or establishing native vegetation, restoring wetlands, really protecting wildlife that may be endangered, or of poaching, for example. There are a lot of opportunities to work in the field of energy, clean energy, and even environmental education is very much supported within our area of focus for the environment. Those policy statements are being released this month, so look out for those. We also are just now starting to create the guidelines as soon as our area of focus manager for the environment comes on board. And those guidelines should be available by spring of next year, so 2021. Now, you can't officially submit a global grant for the environment until July 1st, 2021. But it's good to start looking at these resources. And most importantly, it's very important for DISCs to already start identifying expertise at this point in time, because we don't want to be caught off guard of Rotarians that are ready to submit global grants in July, and when they could have been receiving guidance of really how to meet sustainability guidelines, et cetera, and eligibility. So I want to just give you a sneak peek on that. I wish I could give you a little bit sneak peek on the policy statements, but we are sworn to secrecy, and but those will be coming out this month. So I just wanted to let you know, like I said, we have 2 special programs within water and sanitation. So this is also a part, about 50% of my work is to support larger programs. And when I say larger, we're talking about $2 million and above, to really support the design of these programs, the monitoring of these programs, and then later the assessment of these large investments. These are similar to programs of scale for those of you that were part of Victor's conversation. So my role in this has been as a technical advisor, but also as the evaluator, essentially. Oftentimes I go in country to be able to support these programs at different levels. And each of these larger programs obviously have senior leadership overseeing them. So that's how I directly work with policymakers. So that brings me to my next question for you all. I just have a quick Rotary knowledge check. What is Rotary's largest strategic partnership after polio? And I'm going to have you guys type your answers, just 30 seconds in the box. What is Rotary's largest strategic partnership after polio? Just to give you a hint, you know, this talk is within WASH, so. And you know what, for some reason I can't see the chat right now. Do you mind reading off some of the answers, Bill, for me?
I can. Let me see here. We have Ghana Water Project, Health, UDAID, malaria. We have water and water well drilling. Let's see here. Again, water, another malaria. So that kind of covers it.
Okay, not bad. At least you got the area right, but the strategic partnership has to be with an entity. So the answer is the RI-USAID partnership. We have a partnership officially with the United States Agency for International Development. And this is really, it's a $4 million partnership per country that we're working in. Right now, it's within 2 different countries, which is in Ghana and Uganda. We're looking for a 3rd focal country now, currently, that is not in sub-Saharan Africa, that is hopefully within Latin America or Southeast Asia. And just to give you an idea, what do these larger programs look like? They definitely have the typical WASH components. You put the hardware in, which is the construction. You have the software, which is education, behavior change, making sure management is in place. But we also are making sure that we are drawing upon our learnings from polio. And we really want to encourage advocacy, WASH advocacy. That means that within local or national or district governments, Rotarians are working within their networks of influence, because really Rotary is about relationships, right? We want Rotarians to utilize those relationships, just like they did with polio, to make sure, say, listen, water and sanitation is a human right. How can we prioritize this within the country? As a national speaking to another national who's a decision maker, how can we prioritize this so that we can be self-reliant, so we don't have to be dependent on external resources? So, I mean, what a powerful position for Rotarians to be in. And this type of programmatic work really adds to the sustainability of our investments on the ground. I bring this up to you because our environmental area of focus, this is an area that we really want to encourage, because the environment really it's such a big area. We really do need that advocacy from local to national levels globally in order to really address the environment with any sort of impact. So we're right now collecting learnings from these larger programs that hopefully we can use for the environment. Another cool thing that came out of this was that we have a WASH Sustainability Index tool. Essentially, this is a bunch of fancy language just to say this is a tool to assess your project for the likelihood of sustainability. And you get a rating on a scale of 0 to 100. So if you get a 90%, that means you have a 90% likelihood that the project that you conceived and have implemented is going to be there 5, 10, 20 years from now operating. Can you imagine that? I mean, that is validation that what you have invested in and spent so much time in is actually going to be benefiting the people that you intend to serve for the long term. It's a really cool tool, and this is also available on our website. So it's under our WASH page. We each have a page on the Rotary.org. So you can write down WASH Sustainability Index Tool. You can also Google search it. But everyone will get access to this PowerPoint as well, by the way, so you don't have to memorize. The next thing I just want to point out is I work with the assessment tool a lot. I also work with learnings because I think we can do a lot better job learning from one another across the areas of focus. There's no point of why, if we fail in a project, and many of us do fail, I would say about a failure rate within WASH right now, within volunteer projects, around 35 to 40%. And that is not that different from the sector at large. But what we need to make sure is, in order to get that number to go down within Rotary, we have to be talking to each other, and we can't just be promoting our projects. We really need to be saying, can we learn from each other? What failed? Why did your project fail? You want to talk about it? And again, this is where discs come in. I can't even tell you how important it is for the role of the disc to be able to foster learning and make sure that these conversations are happening, because this only benefits us all to learn from each other, and also our investment to be wiser. So we have a learning site that's going to be launched this month, specifically for WASH and the USAID partnership, but it can be utilized for WASH in general. And there's a specific section that says learnings. And it's an opportunity to get learnings from the field, and then we vet them or consolidate them, and then we post them. And so before going into a project, you can learn about how, you know what, the semi-urban population doesn't necessarily like using a hand pump. Why? Because, you know what, they don't, it's too much work, and they can afford having a pump system. So why keep putting hand pumps in locations where the users don't want to use hand pumps and they can afford better? So it's just a learning for us to think about. I'm excited about this. This is one of the first things ever to happen in Rotary of this sort, and great to be a part of it. So if you want to learn more about our bigger programs that we have, like with USAID, for example, we have one in Ghana and one in Uganda. Jay is actually a part of it. His district is an international sponsor for the Ghana project, which has gone on for 5 years now, doing really great work over there. He's a great resource for that. Or you can reach out to me. I'd be glad to share with you. They're also looking for more international partners. So if you're interested in that, we're always in the world of matchmaking. And if you have any more questions, I can definitely go back to you. So I'm gonna fast forward and go back to here, which is this external entities. And you can see a couple of them that are really common within the Rotary world. You might recognize them. So I work very closely with all these entities because Rotarians, even whether they're a part of our formal programming or not, often are working with them. And in fact, I encourage Rotarians to always be working with expertise. Their projects are just naturally better. As volunteers, we cannot put in the amount of time that a lot of these projects really take. A typical behavior change around hand washing in the field, believe it or not, to really instill habits, health habits, takes around 32 visits. Can you imagine? And as a volunteer, we are limited in time. We can't do it all. So it really helps to have solid relationships with entities that knows how Rotary works. And this is another area, again, for discs. That's why I bring this to you, is that I, at my 10,000 foot level, don't always know what the most commonly used organizations are in a particular region. And I need to get your eyes and ears, bring back to me what those organizations are, who they are, to put them on my radar, to build relationships with them so that we can even strengthen those relationships. Why have them fumble of learning what Rotary is or what global grants are if we can do that in the front end with them? And I think discs are really in a nice space to be able to have those feelers out as they're putting their networks together. So that is my conclusion of just kind of what is a day in the life of an area focus manager, how we're connected to all these different areas. And hopefully it really drove home the importance of the role of the disc in each and every one of the responsibility that lies on my lap. So it's always a pleasure to be able to talk with you directly. And I hope that even the next time we engage, it's the other way around, where you can give me feedback and you give me the information of what's going on in your area. So thank you very much for your time, and I open up for discussion and questions.
Erica, thank you. I will tell you that I've embraced celebrating failures for a long time. You know, I mean, really, we tout what we do that is successful, but we sometimes feel embarrassed about those things that don't work so well. But we learn from our failures, and unless we address them, talk about them, share them, you know, that whole aspect really adds to the texture and the fabric of what we do. We talk about join leaders, exchange ideas, and take action. It's just not exchanging ideas of success. It's changing ideas of hurdles and challenges. And boy, you really hit the mark on this. I'm going to be quiet and open this up for other comments. We're getting a lot of thank yous coming in. Thank you very much for the excellent, informative, and enjoyable program. Thanks for the valuable information. Thanks for the valuable presentation. Boy, oh boy, I think you've got some, yeah, you've got some fans out here, Erica. You know, I think one of the best, one of the really important pieces that you shared today was the connectivity that you have, and as we had talked about in our prep for this, being able to share the process that we would go through in order to be successful with those things that we so much have a passion about. Around the environment, I will only say that I was on a Rotary Friendship Exchange to Scotland a couple of years ago, and we were invited to speak about the Friendship Exchange at their district training assembly. I attended a foundation presentation talking about sand dams, which I was totally unfamiliar with, and the benefits. I mean, it touches so many of the areas of focus just through that one. What looks like obtuse type of thing. Well, wait a minute. Well, what? You're going to build a dam of sand? Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
Those guys actually did a nice presentation at the Wash Rag Symposium last year in Hamburg.
Yes. Yes.
The Scottish sand dam guys.
Yeah.
Other comments? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Erica. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'd love to hear from you of, you know, what piece of information, was there anything that stood out to you specifically that was new, what pieces of information did you learn that was new to you today? I'm always trying to assess essentially the knowledge and background that the Rotary world has, especially our discs. So was there anything that stood out to you as like, oh, I didn't even think about that, or I didn't even know that existed, or I didn't realize that we had 5 area focus managers, you know, or I didn't even know there were area focus managers, you know.
I thought there were 6 instead of 5. I didn't really look at the, obviously the list very carefully.
So I wanted to add something. What you may or may not be aware of is your expanded role came about after the work that Erica had done with in WASH specifically, where it was a pilot to look at how we can use experts to build larger sustainable projects. And in the beginning of the pilot, experts were brought in, almost parachuted in country. And what was found was that bringing in the expert really worked, but then everything fell apart once these experts left.
Yeah.
And that's why the board and trustees thought, this type of expertise is really needed within your own regions where the knowledge is there and the support will stay in the region. And that's how these district resource networks have come to be. So Erica was really one of the pioneers behind the district resource network and helped the board and trustees with this decision. So wanted to thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Kiki.
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question, Erica?
Absolutely.
You mentioned USAID and Ghana, but you actually didn't say anything about Uganda other than you had worked there. Can you tell us a tiny bit about, I've been there and I just have a grant getting approved and another one getting ready to be submitted for Uganda. How does one tap the USAID relationship?
You contact me is the way I would say for that. If you're interested to join the partnership, especially if you have experience working there already and relationships, you're primed to to jump on in. They're definitely looking for more international partners to be involved, and I can give you further information about them. Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure that does everybody have my email address or?
I'm not sure we have your phone number though.
Well, I can tell you this, if you, because we're working from home right now, so I don't have, all I get is first the voicemail delivered to me. So it's actually easier if you can contact me by email.
Okay.
And then I can reach out to you by phone.
And I can send Erica's email, Erica, if it's okay with you. I can send that out with the with a follow-up post event to everyone. I'll include that as well as a. I'll send a guide to global grants as an attachment. I'll send some information Kiki has sent me during this call on the virtual West Africa project fair, as well as the guidelines for global grant funding. I'll send links to all those things, but I will also include Erica's email, which she just put on the chat. So you can see that as well.
Yeah.
Gwynn, Rotary.org. Yeah.
Yeah. I will just say we've got a couple comments here from people. May O'Brien, who's really one of our new group members, indicates that at a wash rag workshop in D.C. 10 years ago, Ron Denham, who was the wash rag chair at the time, commented that the failure rate was about 70%. Now it's 35 to 40%. And she says that's progress with a big exclamation mark. You know, and I think we sometimes forget that we live in a moment of time. But when we take a look at an expanded time frame and we look at what it was and what it is now, can you imagine what it will be in the future? You know, so we need to be looking forward, I think, at in all cases.
Yeah.
Well, we have certainly expanded we have expended our time today. We're at the bewitching time. I'm going to ask Erica for one last closing comment here, if she'd like. Kiki and Elva as well. So Erica, you first.
Yeah, I think what my challenge to you is I would love to hear from this group and other DISC groups is what type of relationship would you like to have with the area focus manager? Yeah, what does that entail? Love to really foster the relationship and mature it as we grow together in the coming year.
And you know, I can ask that question and ask them to respond to you. I'll do that because we had I think a maximum of 27 people on the call today. This went out to 44 people, so you can see we had a pretty good return rate on participation today. But there could be others that after having watched this and hearing what you had to share, they may have some comments back for you as well. So I'll be sure to ask that question and include that, Erica. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much. Kiki, closing comments?
Sure. I wanted to thank everyone again for joining us today, and specifically for discs. Just to let you know, you're not alone. You have great resources in action groups and in Cadre members and Rotarians within your own districts that you can rely on to kind of help you improve projects. And staff like myself and Erica are always here to help you, and really I cannot say enough about Bill and Elva and all the hard work they've put in to kind of keep these regular meetings going. So as long as Bill and Elva are putting them together, I vow to be here as well. So thank you.
You're so welcome, Kiki. Thank you for your support. We couldn't do this if it wasn't really for your support and people like Erica that enable us to do what we do. Elva, my co-host, our co-host today, do you want to close us out with some wonderful, warm, and encouraging comments?
Well, thank you, Bill. First of all, I wanted to thank you all for spending this 75 minutes or so with us, and especially to Erica for the very insightful presentation. I'd also like to say that I attended the WASH presentation that she did a week or so ago, and it was incredible. I believe it's probably posted on the WASRAG site, and if anybody wanting to go there, it's certainly worthwhile. There's going to be a second installment soon. I think it's on sustainability. The first one was particularly on community assessments. The second one is on sustainability. That's coming up soon, so that should be very interesting. The other thing I would like to say, Erica, about the guidelines, not only very helpful to give our project leads to help design their projects, but it's very helpful, I find, when a request comes to us at a International Service Committee level looking for funds. And if we look at the project against those guidelines, we might be able to point out to the presenter that that probably they could do some extra work before they really get it ready to go for approval. That would strengthen their application and be more likely to be successful. So again, thank you very much, Erica, and thank you all for attending today. And we hope to see you again at our next installment in a couple of months' time.
Absolutely. Stay well, stay healthy, and keep Rotary in your lives, guys. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.